Hello and welcome to the second episode of the web tutorial series Bits into Brains. I'm your host Tinas Nordia, and let's get into learning more about Loopback. In today's video we will be going over the basics of Loopback, how to get it installed, how to get it working, and how it works. We will first install all the software required to run Loopback, scaffold a Hello World application, then I will go through the folder structures and the files that make Loopback tick. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this tutorial. Before we can begin to explore Loopback, we first need to install some software that Loopback requires. We need Python 2.7, Git, a C and C++ compiler, as well as Node.js. I will be doing this tutorial on Windows 10, but you are free to use any operating system you prefer. Let's start by installing the dependencies. You will require Python 2.7. Unfortunately, version 3 of Python is not supported. You can get Python directly from Python's website or using a variety of package managers. You also require Git. You can use any version of Git as long as you have a working version of Git installed. You will also require a compiler. For Mac OS, Apple Xcode already has a compiler built in, so you do not have to install this. On Windows, I recommend you use Visual Studio Community Edition. This includes a compiler. You just need to note that Node.js does not support GCC or MinGW, so you need to use a Microsoft compiler on Windows. During the installation, you will need to select Custom in order to select Visual C++ and Microsoft Web Developer Tools packages. In the description of this video, you will find a link and a how-to guide to do this if you struggle. On Linux-based systems, you will require a C++ compiler toolchain like GCC. Please note that GCC version 4.2 or above is required. For Debian and Debian-derived distributions like Ubuntu, you could simply install Build Essential. You will also require Node and NPM. You can do this by using your operating system's package manager, or like me, go direct to Node's website and download the latest version. I use version 6.1.0, but you could just as well use the long-term support version. If you struggle with this installation, be sure to comment on the video and I will try to help, or use our best friend Google. Now we just have to wait for all the software to be installed. Okay. So I've installed everything. Let's just verify that they actually did install and that they are installed correctly. We'll first check for Python. You can do this by typing Python-V to get the version number for Python. The same for Git. You can type git-version to get the version for Git. The same for Node and NPM. You type node-v and npm-v to get their respective versions. Now that we have our dependencies installed, we can go on to install the StrongLoop component suite. To do this, we need to run npm install -g strongloop. This will install the Loopback framework, including Loopback, Loopback data source juggler modules, numerous other related StrongLoop modules, and the modules that they depend on. The StrongLoop command line tool SLC will also be installed, which you will use to create Loopback applications with. StrongLoop Arc will also be installed. After this is installed, we can go on to set up our Hello World application. Now that we have everything installed and working, let's use the Loopback command line tool, SLC Loopback, to create and scaffold our Hello World application. The term scaffold refers to generating the basic code for your application. This saves you time, and you can then extend and modify the code as desired for your specific needs, without having to first create everything yourself. We will be creating a simple API that is used to create, read, update and delete basic text notes. So, open your command line and enter SLC Loopback command. The Loopback generator will greet you with some friendly ASCII art and prompt you to answer several questions. You can choose any name and any folder you wish. When choosing the application types, please choose Hello World so that you can follow along when we go through the components of the application. The generator will create two files in the application common modules that define the model notes.json and notes. The Hello World generator will scaffold the application, including initializing the project folder structures, creating default JSON files, creating default JavaScript files, as well as downloading and installing dependent node modules, as if you would have manually done an npm install. Let's wait for the generator to finish, and then we can start our application. There we go. Everything seems to be downloaded and your application has been scaffolded. Alright. Everything has finally been set up and installed. We can now start to dive into the application itself. In order to view the project files and folders, I will be using the IDE WebStorm by IntelliJ. I enjoy it and I think it's a superb integrated development environment. Find the link below if you would also like to use it. The Loopback project files and directories are in the application root directory. In our case, that folder is located on the desktop called BIBHW, or Bits into Brains Hello World. Within this directory, the shared Loopback project structure has 3 subdirectories, namely Server, Client, and Common. I'll go through each of them now. Let's start with the Server directory. The Server directory contains the Node application scripts and configuration files. Within the Server directory, you will find the boot directory. This is used when the application starts. It bootstraps your application, configures data sources, defines custom models, configures models and attaches models to data sources, configures the application settings, and runs other boot scripts in the server boot directory. You can add custom scripts to perform initialization and set up to this folder. Database CDA scripts, for example, can be added here. The second file we'll discuss is the component config.json file. This specifies which Loopback components the system needs to load. Loopback components are predefined packages that extend basic Loopback application. Some Loopback components are the API Explorer, push notifications, and the storage component. The config.json file stores application settings and default values that you will be using throughout the application. The data sources.json file. This file allows Loopback models to connect to backend systems such as databases via a data source. Loopback also generates other backend services such as REST APIs, SOAP web services, and storage services, and so on. They are all represented as data sources. This file is used to define the data source. You can also use the command line tool slc loopback data source to create these data sources. Loopback, among others, support in-memory connectors, databases such as MongoDB, MySQL, Oracle, and PostgreSQL. Next file is the middleware.json file. Middleware refers to functions executed when HTTP requests are made to REST endpoints. Since Loopback is based on Express, Loopback middleware is the same as Express middleware. However, Loopback adds the concept of middleware phases to clearly define the order in which middleware is called. You could also add custom middleware for production instances, as you can see with the middleware.production.json. This file extends the default middleware and replaces the included values when you specify them in this file. You can also have a development middleware file. This is handy as you would want to, for example, report errors or exceptions in development but not in the production environment. Thus, the development middleware file will contain error handling middleware that reports the errors, and the production middleware might not have this. The model-config.json file configures the Loopback models. For example, it binds models to data sources and specifies whether a model should be exposed over REST or not. The models referred to in this file must either be built-in models or custom models defined by a JSON file in the common/modules folder. For example, in our application there is a note.json file. The server.js file is the main application script in the standard scaffolded application. It requires the Loopback modules to set up standard Loopback app and boot object. It also starts the web server and API Explorer as well as boots the application. The common directory is for shared application files. Inside the common directory there is a model directory which stores your application's models. The Loopback model generator creates a model JSON file for each model in either the server models or the common models directory, depending on your responses to the generator's prompts. The model JSON file defines models, relations between models, and access to the models. You can add all your models to this folder via the command line interface tool. Alright, let's have a look at notes. We define in the note.json file that we want a model named note. It should have a title and a content property. Title should be of type string and be required. The content should be of type string. We also define that we want a method called greet on the model. We will go over what all the parameters for the greet method means in a subsequent video. Let's start our node server and go have a look. Just to remind you, to start your server you need to open a command line in the directory of the application and enter node space period. go have a look at the API. There we go, we get a response saying the API was started and it has been up for 18 seconds. Let's quickly have a look at our notes. Remember, the URL for the API is port 3000/API/notes. It should respond us with an empty array. There we go, an empty array because we don't have any notes. Let's have a look at the greet method. We defined in the note.json file that we want a greet method. The greet method should return greeting with some value. Let's see how this works. There you go, note/greet. There we go, greeting, hello world. What sorcery is this, you might ask? Well, as we define we want a method called greet, we simply need to provide the implementation for this method. This is done in the note.js file. We define note.greet should be a function that accepts message and a callback. If there's no message, it should return world. Thus we return hello world as the callback, and there we get it, hello world. You could also pass a parameter to this with the name of message and it'll substitute world with your message. Well, this is all nice and so, but what if you want a bit more intense tests? Then you will need to write call requests and so on. No, you won't, because Loopback has a great tool to use. It's called the API Explorer. Let's have a look at it now. Here we go. The API Explorer gives you an overview of your API. It tells you the name of your API. For our case, it's BIBHW. It gives you the version and the URL for your API. It also lists the models that you have added to your API. We only have Note, so it'll only show you Note. There we go. These are all the methods that we have applied to our Note. Remember, we only defined that we wanted to have a title and a content, and an extra function called greet. And it created us all the get, put, post, and read functions which we need. So zero coding from our side, and we get a fully featured API with searching, filtering, and versioning enabled by default. Here we go. Let's do a simple GET request. See, it gives you very nice information and everything which you would need. It gives the URL, the response, the code, and the headers that were sent. Well, let's add one for ourselves. The title is my first post. Ooh. And the content is, this is my hello world post. There we go. Let's send it. So it sends a call request to that URL in the background for you. The response, it echoes it back to you, meaning it was a success. Now if we do a GET request, we will receive it as an array. Just to confirm, we can now go back to the default GET request in the browser, and there we get it. So again, in 3 minutes we went from configuration to API. It's as easy as that. There we have it. That covers our Hello World introduction to Loopback. In the next videos we will be going over how to use the command line tool, as well as diving deeper into how the models work and what can be done with them. Please like, subscribe and share, and thanks for watching.